Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this really nice and simple soap frosting that just looks so yummy. So first of all, I'm going to be using a different method. I've used it before, but you guys will get to know as we go on in this channel that I use different methods based on what I'm trying to achieve. So here I'm definitely going to be using a heat transfer method, and the reason is I want my soap batter to be really thick at some point. Like, I don't mind it getting thick. I'm not afraid of acceleration or anything like that. And so I don't mind soaping at warmer temperatures. And so whenever I don't have that fear, I do the heat transfer method. It's just so much faster and just so much easier. It really doesn't take as much time, and so I kind of really like when I have to do the heat transfer method. So I have just put in some coconut oil, and now I'm just adding some shea butter. As usual, I'm going to add some lard, and then once I add, these are the hard butters, right? And then once I'm done adding the hard butters, I'll then use the lye solution that's hot, right? I'll use the lye solution to melt down the hard oils. And that right there is what the heat transfer method is, in case you do not know. Then I have my gloves on and my goggles to protect me, because now I'm going to be handling the lye. So I then proceed to measuring out my water. And then after I measure out the water, you're going to see me add some citric acid. I usually add citric acid to my soaps to combat hard water, and I add it at 1.5%. You can actually add it from anywhere between 1 and 2%. I just like to stay in the middle. That's just me. I like to stay in a sweet, safe spot. So you can see here I've just added the citric acid, and then I'm stirring it in until it dissolves completely in the water. Citric acid does make the reaction with lye a little warmer than normal, a little hotter than normal. So bear that in mind when you're adding your lye to your citric acid and water solution, because you should add it really slowly. Yes, it's important, because you will hear it fizzle. It will bring up the fumes. You will really hear it fizzle because it gets really hot. So you can see here I'm stirring it in really slowly, very gradually. There's no hurry. Just be sure to be careful when handling lye. And you can't tell from this video, but I moved really far away while I was stirring this because the fumes were just so much. So I just moved my head away from it, and that way I didn't get to inhale it. So I've poured the lye in, and then I'll stir that in until it dissolves completely as well. And then once that is dissolved, I will then go ahead and melt my hard oils, like I said earlier. Now, the way I do mine, some people do add even the soft oils to the entire thing and just do everything at once, but I like to just melt down the hard oils so that the soft oils remain cool, right? And then once these ones are melted, I will then add my olive oil and castor oil and any other soft oil, avocado, any other soft oil you want to add to your recipe. That's when this is melted, then you can then go ahead and add that. Bear in mind that because you're adding directly to your soap batter, you really have to be careful so that you don't go over with your measurements. As you know, with soap you have to really stick to the nearest gram. I measure in grams, so you really have to be careful with that. It's a bit of a risk. Another thing you could do too is just measure your soft oils separately and then add them to this once that is done. I'm just lazy because that's just going to be more things to wash up and I would rather not have a lot to wash. So now I've just got back my weighing scale, and I am now adding some olive oil. Then I will add some castor oil. So now that all of my oils are mixed in, before I go ahead to keep mixing, I decided to add some kaolin clay, and I'm adding this at 1 teaspoon per pound of oil, and I'm whisking that in. Now I could have added the kaolin clay to my fragrance oil and just dispersed it before pouring it in here, just so that it would really, because you can tell it's clay, right? Oh, by the way, this is sodium lactate. Yeah, so I could have added the kaolin to the fragrance oil, but because I'm not going to be adding fragrance oil to my frosting, that's the reason I just thought to do it this way. And then also, you know, the reason I'm not adding fragrance oil to the frosting is because I want my frosting to remain white, and I want the soap to be brown, because I'm using a really sweet smelling fragrance oil. By the way, it's not just one fragrance oil, I did mix, you know. So this is definitely a unique fragrance oil. It's going to be unique to Creamy Suds. So my fragrance oil discolors the soap and makes it turn brown, and so I decided to make a brown soap that's gonna have a white frosting. So here I've just taken out my stick blender to just blend everything in. As you saw earlier, I added kaolin, and then I added some sodium lactate, and I think that was it, you know, in terms of additives. And then I had to stick blend everything in. Then at this point, I am now going to remove the bit that I'm going to use for my frosting, because that bit is not going to have fragrance oil, right? So I'm just going to measure out about 1 pound of soap butter into this container here. Then I'll then continue working with the other bits. The reason I even chose brown for my soap, by the way, is just because, you know, when you're working with a fragrance oil that discolors, it's always kind of it's always a good idea to use darker colors, so black, brown, deep brown, brick red or something. So here I've just chosen to use brown. I just put a little, not too much, you know. It's really just to anchor the color and just, you know, make the color, you know, give the color some purpose, because I don't like that accidental brown color that comes from discoloration. So here I've just done this. You can see, guys, there's some air bubbles in there. I was trying so hard to avoid air bubbles, and so I was tilting this container, but somehow, you know, those things just still came. But yeah, it's not too big a deal to me. I'm not really like huge on the aesthetics like that with air bubbles, because soap is soap. It's still soap. Now we're pouring it in the mold, and you can see it kind of got a little thicker than, you know, earlier when I poured some out, and that was because I still had to stick blend my color and fragrance oil into it. And I'm just scraping the container, pouring everything in, and I'm just going to tap that down and just make it even. Then we will go ahead and work on the interesting bit, the bit that made you guys click on this video, and that is the soap frosting. So you can see here, this is not thick at all. It's very, very watery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it to say, oh no, I actually will stick blend. Yes, so I'm stick blending it so it gets as thick as possible. Bear in mind that if you keep stick blending, it's only going to get so thick at some point before, you know, you really will just be wasting your time. So I will just stick blend until I get to that point. Then I'll leave it to sit. When you leave it to sit, then it starts to get harder. And so here I'm just stick blending. Guys, I know I said it earlier, but I always like to remind you guys, please remember to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. So now we can see that it's now thick, and I'm at this point, I just think I'm not gonna stick blend anymore. I'm just going to leave it to sit down and wait, and I will probably leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes. So now I'm just gonna leave the soap batter for about 10-15 minutes, like I said, and now I'm just going to work on my piping bag. So I'm using this disposable one. I really don't even remember where I got it from, guys, so apologies, I would have told you guys. And then I'm going to be using this tip. I don't know what the tips are called, yeah, sorry. But it's like a star tip, I think, and that's what I'm going to be using. So then what we do is you take some scissors, you snip off the tip of your piping bag. My scissors was not ready to be in the show, so I took it off and did it off screen and then came back. So now once you cut the tip, you then place the piping tip into the bag like so. Then you push it in. You know, these disposable ones are really fragile. They can really like cut easily, so you know, I'm just always very careful with that. So you push it in and you just make it tight so that, you know, nothing leaks from the sides. And that's how you do the piping bag. Now to make it easy, I'm going to take a container and I will put the piping bag in the container. Yes, so this is going to make it easy to pour. If you don't do this, honestly, it's just going to be messy, and this can very easily get messy. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. So about 10 minutes later, I'm testing this now to see if it's forming peaks, because that's one way to know if your frosting is ready. And it's thick, but it's not quite forming the type of tips I would like, or peaks rather, that I would like. So with this, if I should pipe, you would see, you know, it would form a nice ribbon or something, but it wouldn't like have a really nice peak that stands. So I think I'm going to leave this for another 5 to 10 minutes. Then I will come back to it. So here we are 5 to 10 minutes later, and I think it's actually looking good. I was doing this test for a while, so bear with me back, guys, but I don't know if it's just me, but I think I can see peaks forming. You know, it's looking good to me, but I was just being extra careful just to make sure I was like properly sure, because there are times when you would think this thing is forming peaks, but it's really not. So you really just have to be careful. So look there, I think that's a peak forming there. So, you know, that's a trick. Kind of, you know, don't be afraid with this one, because you really don't care if it gets really thick. Just kind of use your spoon to, you see what I'm doing there, like create like peaks and see if it stays. That's one really good indication to tell you that your frosting is ready. And once it's like this, look at that, just look at that. Once it's like this, it will form a really nice ribbon. Once you pipe, it will just be perfect. Like, if you don't let it get thick, your piping will look a mess, and that has happened to me before. You know, I have soaps that I have done, people still think they look good, but personally in my head I just don't like them. So this is really where you want to get to. So now we're ready, and I've decided to get a spoon to spoon it into the piping bag, and I'm just doing that. You can see how the container just helps it stay. If you don't do it with the container, again, everything is going to get really messy, and this can once it goes messy, there's almost nothing you can do about it. You just have to keep working, and it will just be very uncomfortable. So that's one of the reasons people don't even like to pipe. But here, so before I proceed, I do a test again. You can see there on the handle of the cup, you can see how nicely that stays. So that is perfect. That just tells me this is good. And if it wasn't good, I would just leave it in the piping bag to wait a little longer before I pipe. So now let's go on and pipe our soap, and here we're just piping. I'm gonna go in threes. I was aiming to get like, you know, I don't know what I was trying to achieve here, but somehow I always have one thing in mind, but somehow my soaps end up being something else, and that's just how soap making is. I say it in all my videos. So here, so the fragrance I used for this soap is a coconut and a kind of sweet sugary vanilla type fragrance. It's really 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 lovely, and I don't even know what name to give the soap now. So yeah, in my previous video I'm doing a giveaway. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, please go back and watch it. There's a giveaway there, and in about 4 weeks, I think, from now, I will announce the winner. And you just really have to name my soap. That's all it takes, and be subscribed to my channel. That's all it takes. But for this soap now, I'm thinking to name it Coconut Candy, but I don't know. So you guys, please leave a comment again and let me know. But this is not a giveaway. Disclaimer, this is not a giveaway. I only have one giveaway right now, and that one is still on. So at the time you're watching this, there is still a giveaway on my previous video. So go and watch that and see if you can name that soap. But this one, I'm thinking of calling it Coconut Candy. If there's something else you can think of, with the brown and the white, just let me know. So that's how we do the frosting. You can see it looks really creamy and milky and so luscious. One thing I forgot to mention to you guys though, if you really want your frosting to look creamy, add kaolin clay. It's a secret. Add white kaolin clay. It will look so delicious. You can also use any color, to be honest. Pink clay, anything you want to use depending on the color you want to achieve, but I wanted white, so here. And you can see that I've just unmolded it. It just looks so yummy. Like, a part of my brain always wants to taste my soap. A part of my brain always wants to taste it. It's just the hardest thing. So now you can see the lovely brown color did come out. It's still going to, I expect this soap to still get a little darker than this. And I want it a little darker. Please pardon my too fast skewer thing there that I'm just using to give this soap its marks. I'm cutting right now, and yeah, I usually cut my soap. Well, it depends on the molds anyway, so I'm not gonna say I usually, but for this one I'm cutting 1-inch bars, and these bars are huge because they have frostings on top. They get to the very top of the mold. They are like huge bars. So yeah guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you've really learned something from this, because I know how hard it was for me when I was learning soap. I literally had to learn soap frosting by myself. It just, sometimes, I don't know, I feel like knowledge is something we should give everyone, right? And some people just hoard. Don't hoard knowledge. And since I've learned it and perfected it on my own, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna let everyone know. I'm going to tell this to everyone. This is one really simple, easy way, and this is the technique. Literally, it's the technique to frosting. And obviously you can use different piping tips as well. You don't have to use the one I've used. Just use your different piping tips. You can practice, you can do all sorts of things, and it's just lovely. It gives your soap that extra touch, you see. Some people say, oh, what's the point of frosting a soap? Well, yeah, but sometimes the aesthetics are really good too. I would like to have soap that looks like candy in my bathroom. But please guys, my soaps are yummy looking and yummy smelling, but they're not edible, so do not eat and keep out of reach of children. Don't know why I had to do that disclaimer, but anyway, I think I'm talking too much now. Guys, have a great day and thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Mwah. Bye.